Okay, you have your digital workplace, or so you think. What is the strategy behind making more effective teams with it, and what do you need to be able to do that well? Today on Culture Builder Live. Hey, I'm Chris Wink. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Technically, the news organization with a community of tech professionals. We report exhaustively on an array of technical, team engagement, productivity tools. I know you're probably exhausted with those ideas, but how do we pull out and think about a digital workplace with a strategic lens? What goes into it? What do we do with it? Today, we'll be talking about just that with Dean Guida. He is the founder and CEO of Infragistics, 30-plus-year-old software development firm, builds tools that we've covered before and have been around for 30 years. Dean, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Indeed. Dean, you have 250 so employees. A couple of years ago, before a pandemic, almost all of them were going into an office. Now that has radically changed. You are someone who's used this phrase digital workplace. I have been at times skeptical because the phrase sometimes feels very like empty. Digital workplace, what does it even mean? So why don't we start with, how are you using the phrase digital workplace? What does that mean?
Yeah, sure. So a little bit of background. We have offices all around the world: Tokyo, London, South America, Eastern Europe, everywhere. And so we've always been distributed teams, but we all were coming in the office, and we started working on a product called Slingshot, which is a digital workplace. And the way we define a digital workplace is Slingshot is a workplace that connects everyone you work with everything you need: data analytics, task project management, chat, content, in all one and simple, beautiful app, which really lends itself to work teams and getting work done.
So the push from another CEO, founder, HR pro, even a team lead, an engineering manager who's watching this is going to say, "Look, I have this already. We already were using lots of these tools. What is this guy even talking about?" So maybe can you start with dig a little bit into like what is the overall tech stack you're even talking about? What's the landscape of a digital workplace you're talking about? Even if we'll get into the details of how that can be used better.
Well, what's really important is that you have a digital workspace that is contextually linking all of the things you do to run a high performing team. So if you're switching to your data analytics app, then going to your chat, then going to your task management, looking at your cloud storage or files, trying to find files, everything's disconnected and it's not contextually in one team space, one project space, one workflow space. And so you spend a lot of time app switching, looking for stuff, and it inhibits kind of flow, which we all know when you're in the flow, you're at a heightened level of creativity and performance. And so it does that. And the second thing is that when you have everything contextually in one workspace to get work done, then you have transparency and you can see what everyone's doing and what everyone's working on. And so it eliminates status meetings. It eliminates having trying to keep people in and know, and it creates a lot of transparency.
Talk to me about how this has changed over the last couple of years for you. As you noted, you already were a distributed team. Infragistics has been around in some form for 3 decades. Has your understanding of digital workplace advanced during the pandemic, even with that background?
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of people talk about productivity, and when we think about a digital workplace and a piece of software that can help get extraordinary results with teams, we actually first think about what does it mean to run a high performing team? What are some of the attributes of a high performing team? So we modeled that off of like these 7 key things, which is alignment on goals, accountability, creating trust, keeping everyone in the know, and having autonomy to execute. And when you do these things, teams get work better together. And when teams perform at a higher level, one really important item I forgot to mention was use data to make decisions. So when you do this, your team will perform at a higher level, which will drive company growth. And a lot of people may be doing this. I talk to other CEOs that are like, Dean, I already have, like you were alluding to, I already have an analytics tool. I already have a project manager tool. But then I show them Slingshot, which is a digital workplace that models all that in one space that's all contextual. They're like, oh yeah, I need that. That I didn't realize that. And another really important thing, I don't know if you knew this, it's kind of a shocking statistic, but actually only 30% of companies worldwide use data to make decisions because people can't find the data or there's too many gatekeepers of the data. And so what we've done at the heart of our digital workplace, Slingshot, is we put a data catalog where you catalog all the data that matters to you, your sales, your marketing, your finance, other SaaS systems. So you catalog everything so it's easily findable and discoverable. And then because analytics is also a foundation of this digital workplace, you're very easily going and using data to make decisions.
The data informed culture bit is important. I mean, I'm interested in, I'll have to look at that survey you're referencing because I think many of us assume or like to believe that we are data informed. And usually the push is, well, are you, or do you even have it at hand? Because it may be unrealistic if you can. So that makes sense to me. So something I've heard you talk about, Dean, is how digital workplace shapes culture. We at Technically have reported on a slow trickle of companies announcing that they are moving their headquarters to the metaverse, which I think we both know is at this point a little bit marketing, but some of them have pushed back on our reporting on it to say, no, this is a real culture change. We mean something about this. We're really investing in it. It's not trivial. This is creating a third place. I'm wondering, in the way you talk about digital workplace, how do you view metaverse as a concept, even if we want to remove the buzzwords and talk about purely immersive digital worlds in which workplace is happening? Do you view that as part of digital workplace? Is something different? What's your stance on that?
I mean, I think it's different. I think the metaverse is like, I'm a gamer. I love to be immersed in world and all that interaction. And I think it has a ways to go to get to the point, but just having a digital presence in a world will help culture for sure. But it's much different than a digital workplace. And the difference is that when you have to be live to kind of like understand what's going on. So the problems that you had in the physical office, you have the same problems in the metaverse. And what are those problems? Well, you don't always know, is everyone aligned on objectives? Does everyone understand the work they need to get done? So when it's up to the manager to say, okay, here's what, when, and how, and it's up to the person doing the work to ask questions and to understand what. But what typically happens is that someone gets overloaded. There's 10 priorities someone has to do. And so when you digitally record, here's the task at hand, and you can have a threaded discussion right next to the task. You can inform whoever's expecting work on a certain date that, oh, you're waiting, and bring someone into the conversation. You're waiting on this person for something, or we need to change the date because I'm being backlogged or I have other priorities changing. And so by digitally recording this threaded discussion around getting work done, it creates that transparency, eliminates status reporting, and eliminates distrust. So that's what happens. People want to hit a deadline, but then they're asked to do too many things, or people want to hit a deadline and they need someone else to complete something. And so instead of having to inform everyone what needs to get done for the task, you just like mention them, bring them into the task. So when you're having this digital kind of conversation, everyone can see it, which is different than in the metaverse where like you and I are talking. I say, oh, well, we need to do this. You guys got it. I'm on it. And then we go away. Oh, well, we need Sally to do something. Now we got to go tell Sally, bring her in, say, Sally, here's what we want you to do. We got to repeat the conversation. She goes off and does her work. So there's a big difference between like the metaverse of emulating a real, physical experience digitally and then a digital workplace. Hopefully I explained that well.
No, I follow. One of the specific differences you're making is how much you want to invest in asynchronous work, which I think is an important, it's one theme that I think it shows up a ton in future of work conversations, particularly when you're operating across time zones. This pandemic has accelerated at least the openness companies are having for remote workforces. Obviously, true global companies have had global offices forever, but as you alluded to, it was still basically based around an office with exceptions. Something big has happened. I want to move to another question here in a moment, but you touched on something that seems important, and we technically are reporting on it a lot. How does a digital workplace relate to the idea of local or hometown? And Infragistics is a great example, as you've alluded to. You've long had footprints around the world, but you also had a big footprint in I think you often were guys were proudly Cranberry, New Jersey, right by Princeton. I think a big 75,000 square foot or so new office. You've really invested in the community there, so you have blended between distributed work, global footprint, but also really investing in a hometown. Do you worry about digital workplaces leaving behind the hometowns that fast growth software companies are headquartered in or were once headquartered in?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I worry about our culture every day. I mean, I don't think a digital workplace, if I understand what you're alluding to, it's hard to create culture. It's hard to create affinity to your brand and the products you're working on when everyone is just sitting at home. So that's still a huge challenge. I don't think digital workplaces solve that much, and I worry about that every day. And if you're a senior person, it's kind of easier. But if you're new and you need to learn, physically being next to each other and being around other people, listening, observing, and learning has a huge benefit of when you're physically in the same space. And then we believe like so to have really innovative productive teams, like we really believe in creating trust, right? So how do you create trust? Well, you should show up authentically every day. You should be you. You should show emotion. Now, be controlled emotion, and then creating a zone or a safety area where leaders and others are making it really safe for people to ask questions, to have different opinions, and to have all that kind of good collaboration and communication. And the physical space lends itself to that. So, like when we built our office, we wanted to make it warm, welcoming, family friendly. Like when we have meetings, there's food on the table. There's free food everywhere, and we have social events, and we do things together, play games together. All of these things actually build trust that enable better collaboration, build your culture. People have affinity and have fun at work, which is also important. Like laughter and fun is so important. Um, all these things are critical to solve hard problems, to give the hard feedback when you have to if things aren't going well, and to be open and communicating about problems. Like the worst thing is like in software development or in anything is you have a problem and you don't share it. So like what happens with a software developer is instead of they can spend a week or two trying to solve a problem when they could have just asked somebody and maybe they would have got a week or two back of their life. And it's the same thing in business. We need to share our problems. Everyone then can work to solve them, and it's a lot better to share problems, collaborate, and then to like keep them to yourself. It's kind it's stressful and hurtful, and so yeah, there's difficulty. Digital workplaces can help solve some of this, but yeah, physical space, connecting with people, you know, you still need to be there, in my opinion.
And I think that's a deep and important point on team culture that's welcome and something we're talking a lot about. My push though, or the interest you picked for me is, does a digital workplace change how a company thinks about place? Its hometown. I'm picturing like you are the CEO of a company that has staff around the world. You have to care about, maybe you have employees in the Ukraine and you suddenly are very concerned about a land war in Asia, which is a strange place for a tech CEO to be thinking about. You also though have a footprint in Cranberry, New Jersey. I'm thinking about, as companies move into digital workplaces, some that go to metaverse, do they lose touch with their hometowns, their physical places? Does it matter less the success of whatever city they're in or town or community or country? Is that inevitable? Does that worry you? Do you think that's just part of the pathway we go with digital offices, or Is that inevitable or worrisome, or both?
It's both. I mean, and so you got to work at that. Like, so you gotta like I believe in, like, okay, I'm wearing a slingshot shirt, and I totally believe in sending swag and shirts and all kinds of things with your product logo on it, and the teams that work on those products, they do then get affinity, so like you send out these physical things to each place. And then, like, I write an email once a month to the whole company, and I get in front of the company once a month globally on on a video, and I try and share what are we doing, share personal stuff. Like, I just got a new puppy named Misha.
Congrats.
She's like an amazing shepherd, and hopefully she doesn't introduce herself into this video, but I sent a picture around of her. And so there's a lot of things you keep wanting to do to bring your own local culture into the workplace, your own company culture into the workplace, your own team culture into the workplace. So I think you can still do it. It's harder, but it's about being real and personal.
Right.
Yeah, I share different personal things with, and you should. Like, there's a really great thing that I think a really great process that we do is I have a weekly team meeting, exec team meeting, and we check in, personally and professionally. And I can't tell you how much that bonds us. So you, like Chris, you can check in however you want. Hey, I cooked this dish this weekend, or hey, I'm having trouble with my son this weekend. Whatever you want to share, but when you check in personally and then professionally, it creates a connection. And so, with each other. And so, yeah, I worry about it, but there's, we have to all just keep working hard at it. And we are as well. We're opening offices, but we did a survey. Only like a third of our staff wants to go back, and the third that do only wants to go back part time, and that's globally. I mean, we're in Tokyo, we're in Montevideo, South America, Uruguay, we're in Sofia, Bulgaria, we're in London. We're in so many parts of the world, and it's been pretty consistent. So people do want to go back. Like, we want to start having parties again, launch parties, and we want to get together with the team. We want to welcome new team members on physically, and so we'll do all that eventually. But the hybrid workplace is here to stay. It's not an exception. I think it's more the norm, and at least in our industry, in the tech industry, I think it's going to be more percentage work from home than come into the office, in my opinion.
Right. Dean, we're over time, so I have to let you go. Thank you so much. That's Dean Guida of Infragistics, founder and CEO, 30-year veteran. We so appreciate the work you've done, Dean. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Thank you, guys.